The Legal Mindset Corner will begin after a brief word from today's sponsor, Answering Legal. Visit answeringlegal.com to learn more about our 24/7 virtual receptionist team.
Who doesn't want to be a successful attorney but still have that life? Having those lunch breaks, playing golf, going on vacation. Answering Legal allows you to.
I really just don't have a need for a receptionist anymore.
Sometimes we're in court or we're dealing with other clients. Because of Answering Legal, my partner and I are able to address any client concerns or any new clients immediately, and it's really increased our business.
It's been amazing. I couldn't live without them, really.
Hey everyone, my name is Nick Werker. I'm the marketing director here at Answering Legal. For a few years now, I've hosted Answering Legal's Everything Except the Law podcast, and I am excited to share that Everything Except the Law is no longer our company's sole podcast. In fact, this spring we'll be launching a number of new podcast shows through the Answering Legal Podcast Network, but I'll be hopping on the debut episodes of all the new shows to help the audience get to know our new hosts a bit. Today I have the privilege of welcoming you to the debut episode of the Legal Mindset Corner, which will be hosted by Cynthia Sharp and Becky Howlett. They both join me now. Guys, welcome to the Answering Legal podcast family. I love you both so much. So excited. Beyond words.
We love you too, Nick. We're so happy. This is literally a dream come true. Literally a dream come true. Cynthia Sharp can attest. I've been bugging her for quite some time. Like, we need to do a podcast. We need to do a podcast. So it's happening.
It's selfish for me. I told you guys this before. I just want to listen to everything that you guys talk about together and be a fly on the wall. And then this is my dream come true, hanging out with you guys. So
we feel the same.
I'm blushing. Can you both tell me a little bit about your experience working in law?
Well, why don't I go first, since my experience goes much further back than Rebecca's. Is I had I went to school in Washington, D.C., and then went up to NYU, got an LLM in tax because I wanted to be in big law. So I came to Philadelphia, which is where I live now, and I went to a large law firm and hated it. Then I went to a second large firm and hated it. And so I said, the writing is on the wall here. Women in big law in the early 80s may not be the place to be. So I started my own law firm. And what I did, Nick, is I built a firm that embodied my values, that I serviced the clients that I wanted to serve, and I took care, I treated my employees like a family. So to the point that I grew where I had myself 2 full-time attorneys and 7 full-time support staff. Well, after close to 30 years of practicing law, I decided I wanted to follow my dream, which was to be a professional speaker and an attorney business coach. And so in 2009, I sold the firm, and I've been doing that ever since.
For myself, my area of focus was actually federal Indian law and tribal law. So when I was a practicing attorney, I was working on behalf of Indian tribal governments, kind of a unique niche, as I like to say. It's a specialty umbrella over general practice, a fabulous area of law. I never felt like I was on the quote wrong side on client matters, but I also was in big law, and I kind of crashed and burned in just a couple years. I was like completely burnt out. Ended up just working for one of my clients as outside counsel and doing the solo route, and then I had this idea to combine mindfulness in the legal field, because learning mindfulness, learning meditation was something that really helped me turn the corner out of my burnout and heal from that. And then the universe brought me Cynthia Sharp, and the rest is history.
Yeah. The pandemic made it possible.
It's crazy
It
that a
did.
pandemic made a lot of things possible. So I know that you guys, a few years ago, right? You came together, you created the legal burnout solution. For those who are not familiar, can you tell us the story of the legal burnout solution, some of the work you're doing through the initiative, and talk. I want to talk all obviously about this mindfulness and your approach.
Yes. So we were supposed to meet at an in-person CLE, and it was March 18th, 2020. I know this because that's my mom's birthday. So the date is going to stick out forever. It
I
was
would hope.
supposed to be an in-person CLE. Yeah. Supposed to be an in-person CLE in Kansas City. And Cynthia Sharp was, the main speaker there. I was supposed to be on like an ethics panel discussion. And things just started shutting down. And so they decided, hey, we're going to take the all-day CLE and do it virtually. And we did. And that's how I met Cynthia. And we just ended up hitting it off. And, as things progressed, it was really clear, like, okay, we're going to be trapped inside of our homes for a time. And so we just came together on this idea and this initiative. Cindy was like, hey, do you want to work together on elimination of bias? And I was like, yeah, that sounds really great. But what I really, really want to do is, bring mindfulness to attorneys. And it just seemed like kind of this perfect moment. Everyone was super stressed out. There was just so much uncertainty going on. And so we just kind of came together under this singular of idea of how can we help attorneys cope with and manage stress. And so we use mindfulness as an underpinning to that, to really, because for me, that's really the first step is awareness, right? You can't solve a problem if you don't acknowledge it, if you don't have awareness of what the problem is. So we really view it as this foundational tool that everyone, but particularly attorneys, can use to help us cope with the inevitable, ups and downs and stresses of our practice. So through the legal burnout solution, we've been tackling all things related to attorney well-being. And it's really, Nick, it's been so cool because it's really showing us almost like a spider web, if you will, of interconnectivity, how these things are all related together. So, for example, one of our really big overarching missions is to stop the stigma. So we really want to generate and have open and honest conversations about these things that are negatively affecting so many lawyers. Things like substance abuse, mental health concerns like depression, anxiety, burnout, occupational burnout, secondary trauma. That's actually been one of our biggest topics folks are interested in learning about. So that's what we've been doing for now almost the past 3 years. And I think our story is just really cool because Cindy and I run this initiative, this company, virtually. She's in Philly, I'm in Kansas City. And I also want to give us a shout out because we're an intergenerational team. So our age difference is more than I am years old. We're a true intergenerational team. And I'm really proud of that fact. So did I hit everything, Sid? What did I miss?
I think you've hit it. And what we did is at the beginning, we said, we're not just going to start a business and, just to see if it works. So we had some test points where I used some of the connections that I have through the Sharper lawyer. And for example, I called the Oklahoma Bar Association and so we've got a new program here and we're willing to offer it to your members free of charge just to try it out. Mm-hmm. And they're like, yeah, we were like, boy, I wonder if anybody's going to sign up. 268 people signed up for the first program. And we said, well, I think we're on to something. So we have now, Becky's our meditation instructor. she was so kind in the beginning, trying to say, well, now, Cindy, Sid, my nickname Sid, you can, why don't you lead one? And of course, that was a terrible mistake. We did not roll it out. Because, she's got, yesterday we were giving a CLE, and during the CLE, I go right into the meditation myself. And I'm like, wow, what a way to make a living is to sit there and meditate while someone with a great voice leads you. And she's led through our company close to 4,000 attorneys now in meditation. And surprisingly great feedback.
I didn't know that your first event, you got so many people, but I can confirm that Becky is an excellent meditation leader. Like, I think they should put you on the Calm app. I use the Calm app a lot, and I never remember her name, but there's a Canadian woman, and like that's all I listen to is this one Canadian woman because I just love her voice. But if they put you there, I'd be picking Becky Howlett. I'll tell you that right now.
I love it.
Okay, well, thanks for
Becky.
Yes, thank you so much.
Don't get her into some fancy job where she leads the legal burnout solution. What am I going to do then?
Oh, I'm just talking selfishly about how I want it like in my ear that night. I'm not. Don't worry. She's staying put. So I want to talk about your guys' new show. I want to talk about the Legal Mindset Corner. What's your vision for the show? Like, what should the audience expect? What are you looking most forward to about doing this?
Well, there's a few different things that we have in mind. The major, when we want to drive change, and we want to drive sustainable change both within the context of the legal community and of individuals. We fully believe that sustainable change happens one little bit at a time. So in each one of our programs, they will be built so that to inspire law firm leaders to create healthy spaces and to inspire and motivate individual attorneys and frankly anybody in the legal community to adopt a lifestyle that's healthy both of mind and of body. And, the program, Becky's pointed out our intergenerational, and we found, I'm not embarrassed. I'll be 69 this year and Becky's much younger. And because we have that age gap between us, we're able to talk to veteran attorneys and those who are really entering the legal field, because Becky's certainly much closer to that stage that I am. And in this program, I think the main thing is you can just expect the unexpected, because we are not going to hold back. As Becky mentioned, she's been bugging me, 2 years. We got to have a podcast. And I'm like, it's easy enough to be a podcast guest, but to be a host, that's a different level of commitment. And I know there's been several times we talk and talk and talk. Once we start talking, we don't stop. And she said, yeah, well, this conversation should have been recorded because other people should have heard this. And then you guys put the call in, and I'm like, well, the universe has definitely spoken. One of the things that as we've planned the program sequence is we're excited about the quality of guests that we're attracting to come and be interviewed, because we want to have our perspectives and to have someone else's perspectives as well. And look, Nick, we've worked for a while together, and I think by now we walk our talk. And so we want to inspire others to walk their own talk as well. Whatever that talk is.
That's right, because it's going to be different. per person. Yes.
Yeah. Every person needs something, some type of a different message. And we anticipate that most of our listeners are going to be lawyers, but frankly, our message applies to anybody. It's not, and not just professionals, because, our message again of openness, of really we use the word stigma, stop the shame. And that's what so much of our society has turned into shame-based. And we're determined to at least help at least one little corner of the world.
So that actually brings me to what I think is a very important question. We're talking about ending the stigma. So what does having these conversations like publicly and I guess publicly is the word, and widespread, what does that do for lawyer wellness related issues? Like, how does that stop the stigma?
I was just going to say, I think it helps people realize they're not alone and that it's okay to not be okay. Because I think especially with attorneys, we have almost this like armor, we can't be perceived as being quote unquote weak, right? Like, so we really have kind of, the stiff upper lip, if you will. And so, but we know from all of these statistics, from all of these studies on lawyer well-being, on mental health, on substance use in the legal profession, that these things are affecting our profession at epidemic rates. So this is not an isolated thing. We have a culture problem, right? And so for us, I think, to answer your question, that's why it's so important, at least for me, is I just, again, want to raise awareness and acknowledge this, because in my mind, acknowledging your vulnerability, that's real strength. Acknowledging when you're not okay, right? When you're not, you are in a place where it could negatively be impacting your client, your case outcomes, your reputation. That is what real strength is, to say, hey, I'm not okay right now. I need extra support. I need to take a step back. I need to do whatever it is that you as an individual need in that moment. And I think it's just, promoting that, because I think so many of us, we're just kind of stuck in fight or flight, right? And we would be well served to get ourselves out of that, what should be a temporary trauma response, so that we can be in a place where we can be making decisions from, as my therapist calls it, our wise mind, right? We can be in a place where we can access our emotions, but we can also access our rational thinking and bring them together. So we're not just, making a reactive, reacting, right?
It's almost an epidemic in our society that you have to always be productive, productivity, doing. And so we end up being human doings instead of human beings. And that's what we want to encourage people. Feel and experience your holistic self, because we've only got a short time here on earth. And so why don't we make it the best that we can be? I like what Becky said about there being strength in vulnerability. Becky and I have been and are very candid in sharing our own stories, our own feelings, right up there on our website at legalburnout.com. You will see videos where we tell it right where it is. And so what it's been really, it's galvanized us through the past 3 years it's almost like we get fan mail from people that say, oh, thank you so much for saying that. It really released me. And because, see, people get this blueprint. This is how I'm supposed to be. This is how I am supposed to feel or not feel. And by having these open conversations, by normalizing discussions about issues that we have had or that we have now, then it allows others to really open up in a way and come to realizations that they never even thought about having before the conversation started.
I never thought about it that way. But I do remember the first time that we hung out on the podcast, we talked about substance abuse, and you inspired me. I let everybody know that I am a recovering substance abuser in a 12-step program. But then I realized that I don't have to go out and be a missionary for it. But I do let people in my community that I interact with. I'll give you an example. I play sports locally, recreational sports. And there are people who, this guy's got this problem, that girl's got this problem. And I just let people know in my circle that if they need help and they feel like they want someone to reach out to, that I am there. I have experience with this and I will help you if you want it. I'm trying to help end this stigma, right? Where it's you don't have to be this way if you don't want to be. You can ask for help. There is help if you need it, or want it. So I really do appreciate you guys. Again, you inspired me to do it. I didn't come up with that idea. Cindy was talking about it, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll jump on the bandwagon now.
I'm really glad to hear that. It's, my journey is similar. I've been sober from alcohol now for just about 13 and a half years. And my first 10 years as a professional speaker, I never brought it up. I didn't hide it, but I didn't bring it up because it wasn't relevant to the conversation. Well, now as we're talking about delegation dynamics, let me tell you about my alcoholism. No, it doesn't fit. But when Becky and I started talking about mental health, I actually talked to, I'm not in counseling now, but I went for a counseling appointment and talked about, is it safe space for me? Because my own sobriety is I take care of myself first. And I was given the release, the permission, and I haven't shut up since. But no, I'm with you. I don't judge. And anybody, here's what we find, is that whatever someone's issue is, they may have come to the point of awareness of the issue, but awareness does not mean that they're ready to address it. And that's okay. It's all right. Because when someone's ready, then they know that Nick, that Cindy, that the Legal Burnout Solution, we've got the tools available for you. And, in coming up with the name of this podcast, the Legal Mindset Corner. Of course, I did confess before we started today that we put it through Chat GPT, which we thought was a cool way to come up with the name. But here's the one thing that we really fed into it that we were strong about, and it was Becky's idea, is we wanted the word corner in there. Because we wanted to give the feeling that this is a safe place to be. Come on into our corner and let's have a chat.
I love that. I feel like I'm in the corner right now. I'm just bearing my soul to everybody.
Yeah.
Yay, we have that effect on people.
Yeah, you do. You really do. Which is a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it's there's no barricade here anymore. I don't know what happens when I start talking to you guys. I'm word vomiting. I'm talking about my wife and my problems, and it's a mess.
Authenticity. I think that's what we promote, is authenticity. And I want more of that, personally. So
So I get in trouble for this a lot too, is sometimes like I'm not able to play the game that I'm supposed to be playing. You know, like if you're at an event and like maybe you got to button it up, like I can to a certain extent, but I'm also a little too me in most situations. So I think that's something I need to actually work on.
Oh, I don't know. I don't
Valid.
think you know
Valid.
too much you. I think the authenticity and here's what I've observed is that people put up these fronts, and so then on the outside looking in, you think, wow, that family, they are so totally together, when actually they're as dysfunctional as they come once you peel the layers open. And so by putting up these fronts, there's pain, hurt caused by that behavior on many levels. One is that the family doesn't get the help because or the person, right. Well, no, I'm so perfect and I'm not going to show anybody. But then the other people think that they're less than. Wow, that person is so together and I'm not worthy. And social media, it has taken that to a large level.
I'll say this. I know people that you can rent very fancy cars and you can take pictures of them and put it on social media. And then, everybody thinks maybe you're rich, maybe you're this, maybe you're that. But you got to realize like it's a temporary snapshot of something that may or may not exist. And if it does, good for that person. It makes them happy. And if it doesn't, then what are you really envious of, And I like that you guys talk about being in the moment. Like if I'm cool right now, I'm happy. All I need is a dog and like, I don't know, a taco. I'd be good right now.
Yeah, I could.
Is it? Oh, it's not Taco Tuesday. I thought it was Taco Tuesday. It's not Taco Tuesday.
You see, you're messed up on the days too.
I know. I don't know what's going on with me. I want to ask you this. So I know that you guys obviously are inside of the data. And especially like you talk and you know the personal experiences of the lawyers that you speak with. So what does the legal community currently seem to be facing most strongly these days? What are they struggling with? And what are the biggest wellness related issues in this year, 2023?
I want to throw out lack of balance with work-life integration. And we want to use that term as opposed to work-life balance. Because, with the pandemic, it has really become that, right? So many of us are working from home, we're working in the digital space. But I think what's happening is that's kind of turned into a double-edged sword. So for example, whereas, people might be, oh, I'm saving a little time, I'm not having to commute into the office, but then conversely, they're never off. Right. We're having really difficulties maintaining healthy boundaries, especially as to communication and our use of technology. So I think for attorneys, a lot of times we get kind of caught up in our identity as the service provider, right? We want to provide like the best client service. But this is now leading to a slow creep, or not even a creep, slowly on our boundaries. We're just not having them with clients, right? Like we will respond to emails, after hours, like during the evening, on weekends, quote unquote, when we're on vacation. And I think relatedly to that is this misuse of technology and also our mindset with it. So, for example, I think something we see again and again with attorneys is the over prioritization of email and responding to email, this idea that we need to be immediately responsive. And, again, we hear over and over from attorneys that they just have a really intense workload. And I'm thinking, and I know Cynthia Sharp's going to pipe in, well, perhaps they could utilize Chat GPT to help them. Alleviate the burden.
You're mean. You're so mean.
We're mean.
I'm not mean. I'm keeping it real. I know that's where she's thinking. She's like, ChatGPT. That's our unofficial third business partner these days.
I'm only teasing. Yeah, when you said before, you're like, oh, my third business partner. I'm like, they have a third business partner? And you're like, ChatGPT.
Yeah.
In terms of then a lot of what attorneys are suffering from now as well is really the same stuff as they were before the pandemic. I mean, we're dealing with the fallout of the pandemic. I'm seeing I hear different reports about the economic aspect. Most of the people I know, attorneys, really didn't miss a beat financially. Some law firms did, and a lot of them didn't. So what we're seeing is then with this hybrid work situation, or some people going back, some not. Okay, so people then that are going back in, some of them they're resentful that they have to go back in. Some are telling us, actually, I was just fine working at home, but now that I'm going back into the office, I don't like the toxic work culture that I'm stuck in, and really, it's also a matter of the age-old issue of not feeling appreciated. Because, I will work really hard if someone appreciates me. But all too often in the law firm setting, we see that lack of appreciation because it's just taken for granted that you're going to produce. As I was this morning, I said, let's see if there's any new studies. Well, believe it or not, I found a study that was released by the New Jersey State Bar Association on April the 17th. And this recording is taking place on April the 19th. So it's fairly current information. There were 1,643 attorneys who were interviewed, and there was 1 out of 10 of these lawyers had suicidal thoughts. 56% reported regular alcohol abuse. 68% reported anxiety, and 28% said they're considering leaving the law. And so these statistics are worse than what we've seen, like from the 2016 Hazelden study and from other studies that we've come along. And I don't know if maybe part of it is the awareness that or that people are just getting fed up. I don't know. It's so stressful.
This is why I love what you guys do. Because those are really terrible numbers, and that's really hard things to talk about. And it's cool to just not brush it under the rug, It is what it is. We can address it. We can do our best to participate in making people feel better about talking about these things, getting the help that they need. You guys obviously facilitate a lot of that. But that's terrible. That's terrible news.
But the good news is that since 2018, the American Bar Association started a wellness initiative, and so the profession is responding at some level. My suspicion is that there are some firms that are responding really just at a level like, yeah, we really have to do this because everybody else is doing it, having the well-being. But I'm seeing a lot of the firms that Becky and I have been working with have been very responsive to our message. And as I've mentioned, I'm an attorney business coach, and there are 2 of my clients that come top of mind. And one of them, his attorneys, it's 9 to 5. That's it, 9 to 5. You must take your vacation. Another one of my clients is working on having a 4-day work week for all lawyers. And so I think that there's a recognition, at least among some, a recognition and willingness to take action. But now here's what's interesting. It's people that are cutting down on the demands, cutting down on their own work. They're not making less money. And I think part of it you can be, if you're thinking about efficiency, you can be a lot more efficient if you are coming with a restful mind. If I'm working on a project here at this very desk and I start to not have clarity of thought, I'm like, it's time to put it away. Go do what I find to be a lot of fun. And tomorrow morning, let's just tackle it bright and early. As we think about the billable hour issue, that's one of the things. Becky and I did a survey of a firm in the fall of 45 of their associates. The billable hour issue is one that came up. And I think that as it's up to the incoming leaders to make the change. Make change. Like my fee structure that I had for my law firm, it was almost all flat fee. Very little of the hourly rate, because I don't sell my time. I'm selling my expertise, is the way that we reframed it. And guess what? My clients were fine with it. So I think it's a matter of that, there's a story that someone told me once about that their mother would always make a meatloaf, and then before she put it in the pan, she'd cut off the ends and put it in the pan. Oh. And so he said one day, he said to his mom, he said, I've noticed my whole life what you did, your habit. What's that about? And she said, well, that's how your grandmother did it. So he went and asked his grandmother. He says, well, that's how my mother did it. Went and asked his great-grandmother. And she said, oh, I always did it that way because my pans were too small. And so there was an explanation that went back. So when I hear somebody say, this is the way we've always done it, I want to go deeper and say, why? How has that, is it serving you any longer? And let's have some disruption, and let's make these changes. And it's mindset. That's all it is. Change your mindset.
Yes, I totally agree. And dovetailing off of that, are on the mindset, and like you said, Cynthia, accepting less work or making yourself available for less work is not equating to making less money for your coaching clients. And like a mindset that I've had to adjust as an attorney is that grinding or hustling, that doesn't necessarily equate to success. And also what we were talking about before, I think it's really important to define your own success as an individual, and don't be defined by what other people, or even worse, what you think other people define as success. I think that's like the ultimate mind trap, is your decisions are based on what you think other people are going to think about it. It's like, oh my gosh. And like Cindy's saying, we created this structure. We ultimately have a choice. We have free will. We can make a decision where we're going to take it in the future. And, to your point, Sid, about the billable hours, I think with the advent of AI, there's a target on billable hours back right now, because the old system isn't gonna work, right? If we have this means to do a project in, a tenth of the amount of time that it historically took, then a different billing model is gonna be necessary, right? Like you're saying, a flat fee model. So, and to tie it to the point about where attorneys are at with the pandemic, I think that's what's happening. I think we're really we kind of had a moment where it forced us to take a step back, slow down enough that we did ask ourselves the question, is this working for me? Is this working for my firm? Is this working for the profession as a whole? That's my mic drop. I'm done. I'll step off my soapbox now.
I love that.
I always love your soapbox, Becky.
Good soapbox. Love it. All right. So before we actually wrap up today, we're doing a rapid fire question list off here so that our audience can get the chance to know the real Sydney and Becky. I don't know who wants to go first, but you're gonna have to. We got to do a rapid fire. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Becky did.
What's your go-to?
You gotta go on the.
Who's going first?
You want me first? Do you want me first?
That's okay. Cynthia Sharp.
All
yeah,
right, I'll
that's
do it. I will put myself on the hot seat. Let's go.
Hot seat right now. What's your go-to late night snack?
Tate's chocolate chip cookies.
Okay. Becky?
Whatever's available. Whatever's in the pantry, whatever's in the freezer, whatever in the fridge.
My wife will eat a hamburger bun. I'm like, that's your snack?
Okay.
A hamburger bun. Yeah, like a potato roll. I'm like, okay.
Well, what do you eat?
Oh, there you go.
What's your snack?
I'm more like Becky, but it's usually potato chips. Any kind of potato chips, whatever I saw in the store that is in my pantry. I'm just covered in crumbs all the time, honestly. What's your favorite leisure activity?
Reading. I'm just sitting down quietly with a book.
Fair.
Mine is also reading. Reading and singing.
She's a wonderful. With that voice, you are probably not surprised that she's a singer.
I gotta hear you sing, Becky.
Oh God!
No, I won't make you do it right now.
Maybe we'll tempt the audience on a future episode of the Legal Mindset Corner. I promise to sing.
Or when we get together,
Stay
we'll
tuned.
go do karaoke.
Oh my God! Yes. Okay. Yes.
What's your favorite thing about working at the Legal Burnout Solution?
Oh, Becky. Working with Becky and meeting cool people like you. You know, I think I love learning new things. You know, we do the research. I enjoy learning. I enjoy, I like the fan mail we get. I like to know that we're really helping people.
Wow.
Okay, my answer
crying.
was working closely with Cynthia Sharp. And I also, yeah, we love working together. And also, I feel like, and I tell Cynthia this all the time, I feel like what we're doing here is truly like expanding consciousness, like put in kind of a sly way. So for me, it's Cynthia Sharp and expanding consciousness.
I love you guys. What's the last TV show you binged?
Daisy Jones and the Six.
Okay.
Oh, I don't know what that is. When I had a cold a couple of weeks ago. Okay, Daisy Jones and the Six. Okay, I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah.
Mine was okay. Yeah, mine was. I had a cold a couple of weeks ago, and I watched the whole second season of Next in Fashion. I might have also watched the first season as well.
Wouldn't have.
Yeah, it was good.
Would not have thought that.
Right. I've seen it. I've seen it.
And what is it? I didn't hear it.
Ted Lasso. It's on Apple TV.
Oh my God! Oh, I love Ted Lasso, and I mean we're up to date. It's like I'm waiting. Come on, release it!
It came out last night, and I was out with my friend watching hockey, and so I can't wait to get home and sit down on the couch with my wife and watch the new episode.
Well, I'm going to be doing that in about 2 minutes.
You're like, and with that, the podcast is over.
We just never see Cindy again. All right, I'll speed it up for you. What common lawyer mistake frustrates you the most?
Not having processes in order.
Yeah, I'm going to say over prioritizing email and not prioritizing self-care. But I love
I'm
the
with
processes answer, and if I had thought of that, that probably would have been my answer too.
So it was stolen. We'll give you credit for that. What's the last
That's it.
concert you went to?
The last one I went to was a XPN festival on the Delaware River.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's a 3-day festival in Philadelphia every year, and we always go 1 or 2 days and just go hang out and listen to bunches of concerts. And they have 2 stages, so we go stage to stage and have a good time.
You are so cool, Cindy. It hurts.
Thank you.
She is so
I
cool.
like that.
She is so cool.
She is really
I
cool.
love you.
Let's see. I went to a concert that was inside someone's house. But it was like so cool, and like they had a really modern house, and it was a couple folk groups in town, Leela and Star Sister Revival, and I have friends in both of these bands, so it was like really cool to like see them play.
Very cool. Last question, and then Cindy, you can go watch Ted Lasso. Why should lawyers take the time to listen to your new podcast, The Legal Mindset Corner?
Well, you're going to learn something new every single time that you tune in. Because we're committed to providing content that is the latest and the greatest, and we're going to furthermore give you inspiration to take that new material and either shift your perspective or make some kind of a sustainable change in your own life.
Okay, this just shows how Cindy and I have like such collective consciousness. I wrote down, you're bound to learn something new. and also that we're highly entertaining. I mean, come on.
We like to have a good time.
Can confirm with both. I've now been hanging out with you for over an hour, and I'm kind of sad it's over. And Cynthia has me now on freaking ChatGPT Googling where I'm going to go out to eat this weekend. So she's not wrong.
Tell the audience what happened.
So very long story short, my wife is like, you haven't taken me out in a while. So I said, okay, I'll do it. I'm going to plan the whole thing. But I procrastinated, and now it's Wednesday, and then Friday is coming up soon. So I asked ChatGPT where I should take my wife out to eat in Suffolk County, New York, which is where we live. And the number one suggestion it gave me is the restaurant we went to right after we got married.
Oh, my. And so is that where you're going to go?
Yeah, I have to.
Cool.
I have to.
Oh, you're going to love it. Now, are you going to tell her that ChatGPT gave you the advice?
I'm going to show her this clip in the podcast, and she's going to cry laughing.
Yes.
Well, we look forward to meeting your wife.
That's what I'm going to do. Well, that's all we have for this episode of the Legal Mindset Corner. Cindy and Becky are taking over host duties from here on out. I know I'll be watching. You can all follow along with new episodes too on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the Answering Legal YouTube channel. This is the hat. I'm giving you back your hat, Becky. For more information on the podcast network, visit answeringlegal.com, and we hope to see you next time, everyone.